right, good afternoon, everyone. I need a little more energy than that. We got to fill up the room with our spirit and our energy. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, so I am so excited to be here for a multitude of reasons, but namely, Dr. King is not something that I acknowledge solely on his birthday. This is a life. This is a demonstration, and definitely want to give honor to our most recent ancestor, Harry Belafonte. We know that Harry Belafonte is a living, breathing call to action, living, breathing legend. But most of all, Harry Belafonte has a servant's heart. And we know that Martin Luther King and Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier, all now ancestors, demonstrated to us not only to be excellent in your field of work, but to be excellent in your community. And they spoke truth to power when it was not popular. We've come such a long way, and we still have such a long way to go. But I would be remiss if we didn't have just a moment of silence for our most recent ancestor, Harry Belafonte. If we could just observe. Amen. All right, so when Sharia and I spoke many months ago about a topic, like what's the topic? What should we talk about? And brand is a word that moves around so much on the internet. And I love that we centered here for just a moment to dive into, well, what is it? And I am a marketing student, graduate of Wayne State University. Yep, Wayne State. I know we all can't be rattlers, but it's okay. But I'm a graduate of Wayne State, and I remember sitting in class on my first day of Principles of Advertising, and we talked about brand. What is it? And it's really, the working definition is your position in the marketplace, how you're perceived, right? So a lot of times, especially in our world right now, perception many times becomes reality. We're not questioning, we don't necessarily always become investigative about what we see, and just the way we consume our content through social media outlets, it can lead us to believe that some things are true just because we see it in repetition, and that's not always the case. So I would like for us to go a little bit deeper. And when I'm working with my coaching clients in business and helping them to cultivate their brand, there's a thing that I like to call your soul signature. Somebody say soul signature.
Soul signature.
Your soul signature. Now, this is the thing that enters the room before you do. So I'm going to invite you to, if you have a blank sheet of paper or you can use your phone, put this in your notes. Okay, this is an exercise for everybody. Put this in your notes. Okay. Because you don't get to dictate your brand. Contrary to popular belief, we can influence it, but you don't get to dictate it. Quote Maya Angelou, she said, it's the thing that people will remember is how you make them feel. So how many of you can say, like, you don't necessarily remember a name, but you remember a face? But you also remember how someone makes you feel. You'll never forget that. So shout out to all of my educators, because your teacher, I don't care who you are, where you've gone in life. I remember there was an award ceremony and Janet Jackson thanked her her fourth grade teacher. Now you would think that she's been all over the world. She's in one of the most famous families. If America did have a royal family, the Jacksons would be considered royal. But it was her fourth grade teacher that she remembered. So everyone that we pass along the way, right, there's an exchange. And so the soul signature, that exercise that I'm going to take you all through, is very simple. You are going to text or call. Phone call is better. Jump on the phone if you can, or even meet up for coffee with the 5 people closest to you. Don't think about it too hard. And this also proves the point of this exercise. When you think of the 5 people that know you, love you, support you the most, These are not acquaintances. These are people that you trust their opinion. So that also will show you, again, who we should be in community with by the way that they make you feel. Now, from there, you got your 5 people. So it's your top 5 people. You're going to text them or meet up with them, make space. Definitely through this pandemic, have we now learned the value of relationships, just how much people mean to us? So if you've been meaning to call some of these people, go ahead and do it. Because as we know, tomorrow is not promised. Now from there, you're going to ask them, what are the 5 words that come to mind when they think of you? 5 words. It's knee-jerk. They can't think about it too much. Just immediately, when you think of me, what are the 5 words that come to mind when you think of me? Now, what you're going to do, you'll end up, if you're interviewing 5 people and you get 5 words, you'll have 25 words. But actually, in all actuality, you're going to start to see probably some repeating words. You're kind, you're compassionate, you're creative, you're thoughtful, you're inspiring, you're trustworthy. You're going to see these words kind of start to repeat themselves. Now, when you finish with that, you're going to take the top 5 words. So if you start to see trustworthy repeat over again, okay, so then that's going to be your number 1. You look at another word, you start to see that repeat. So the words, the 5 words that repeat themselves over and over and over again in that conversation with your friends. That is your brand. Those words are your brand. That's your soul signature. That's what comes into a room when you're not there. That's what people are left with when you walk away after you meet someone. You know how it is, let's be honest. When you meet someone, you look them in the eye, you do the handshake, you can kind of feel, you get a sense of their spirit. So no matter what it is that they say, there's a spirit that resonates. And so what we want to do is be congruent. Somebody say congruent. Now, don't get me wrong, we all are going to have days. We're going to have a day, we're going to have a bad day. So please don't let that first impression be the lingering one. But what I really want to get to is in that soul signature of where you enter, think about who you are first and foremost. And I want us to drop all of the identities. You're not a mother, a father, sister, or brother. You're not male, female. You're not your religion. Just who are you, the true essence of who you are, because that's going to speak. So think about not only who you are, but who you want to be. Who are you being in this moment? And then the next thing that I want us to consider is, what do you want to be known for? Because that also carries in your soul signature. What do you want to be known for? And I had a come to Jesus moment, if you will, in life. As just, some of us are not as seasoned yet, so maybe you haven't gotten there. But maybe for those of us who've lived a little while, you've had a couple of moments, crossroad moments, where you're like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. Or if I'm to continue doing this, you ask your higher power, you're going to have to help me, because it's bigger than me. If you want me to continue this work, then you're going to have to come in and help me. So think about what you want to be known for. You know, do you want to be known as an advocate? Do you want to be known a leader? Sometimes we toss that word around. There's a difference between being a leader and just someone that's in charge. So there's a difference there. A leader inspires. Someone in charge simply dictates. And as we know in our history, when things have been dictated, when our ancestors were on that plantation, there was something in our ancestors' spirit that said, I know I'm supposed to be free. And so when we knew implicitly that we were supposed to be free, the very things to our freedom they kept from us, a language, our music, our spiritual practices, reading. There was a time that you could meet certain death just by being literate. So there's a power there that maybe they recognized that we did not. So think about who it is that you want to be in the world. You got to be willing to be unliked. You have to be willing to maybe lose some social media followers. You have to be okay with being odd, strange, different. I made a recent post that a really good friend of mine who worked here, particularly in the city, some of you may know him, Chris Campbell, good friend. And I remember we were sitting literally after I got the news that my uncle made his transition. And we were talking about branding, messaging, and he said to me, Ber-Henda, you have to be willing to be delusional. And I said, delusional? I was like, that's crazy people, right? He was like, well, yeah, people are going to call you crazy. Because the life that you're aspiring toward, you have no precedence for. Like, it's never happened. So sometimes when we have no precedence, when there's no documentation, right? We have no evidence, it's not written somewhere. I heard Minister Reverend T.D. Jakes talk about the woman who touched the hem of his garment. She didn't know, but she believed. And so you gotta have that kind of delusional faith that what you've been called to do, it's gonna come to pass. I'm sure people were looking at Noah crazy, building the ark. I am so sure that someone thought Thomas Edison was crazy, talking about electricity. What is that? Electricity. Electricity was always there. Thunder, lightning, it was always there. It had never been harnessed. We take for granted that we're on airplanes. Even the very chairs that you're sitting on right now, that was a product of somebody's imagination. And believe it or not, there was a time in the medical field, Ignacio Weiss, you can look him up. He was a doctor. He couldn't understand why women were passing away in childbirth. Well, if the mortician is coming from the mortuary, right? Leaving the funeral home to go deliver a baby and not washing his hands. Yeah. So he said, you need to wash your hands. They laughed him out of the medical profession. What do you mean, wash your hands? Sanitize. I know as crazy as it sounds now, but he said he started to make a correlation and got medics to start to wash their hands. So you gotta be willing to be unpopular, and you have to be willing to be unliked and do the thing that may make you look a little crazy and be okay with that. And my last point, before I leave you to consider when we're talking about excellence and branding and your soul signature, follow the inspiration. Stay inspired. Be around inspiring people. There's so many accounts now. There's books, there's audiobooks, podcasts. Because when you're doing big work in the world, and just like this young man here, you're writing, you're challenging sometimes power at school. Yeah. You have to be inspired. In doing the work, you're not always gonna feel, you can't always wait to feel like it. Where are my parents? Parents in here? Anybody parents? Yeah, I'm sure you want a day off sometimes. You don't always feel like taking them to wherever it is that they need to go. But you understand the importance of all those intramural activities, being at events like this. You understand the importance of it. And so you're able to kind of rise above the tired, right? Or the feeling like it. So be inspired. And so as I close, I just want to say, remember that we are always in process. We're always in process. I can be honest now, I've had 3 failed businesses before this one. And the biggest part of the failure wasn't so much lack of aptitude or ability. I didn't want to let people come in and help me. I was ashamed that if I asked for help, I'm gonna look weak or incompetent or whatever. But the point is, I don't care what it is that you're doing. Even a brilliant mind like Dr. King, he was not alone in his dream. It was not a solitary activity. He invited us all. Still generations are being invited into this man's dream, into a divine calling on his life that all of us are still answering the call to. So as I close, think about this. Would you follow a girl that got pregnant at 14 and dropped out of college? I bet you do. Her name is Oprah Winfrey. Would you follow someone that got locked up 29 times? I bet you do. because Dr. King was arrested and put in jail 29 times. And would you follow someone of low birth, someone from a working class family, from the wrong side of the tracks? I bet you do. Jesus was born on the wrong side of the tracks, low birth, to working class people, an immigrant. So when we think about who's called and who has a big calling on their lives, it doesn't matter where you start. It only matters that you listen and continue to obey your calling. Some of our favorite brands started out in the kitchen. Carol's Daughter, beautiful beauty product, have all kinds of, Mary J. Blige, I believe, is one of their influencers or brand ambassadors, but she started out in her kitchen making whipped shea body butter. Look at her now. So the point is, you can start anywhere. And if you got a little derailed, start today. And start with that soul signature exercise. Go ask those 5 people that are closest to you, what comes to mind when they think of you? My name is Ber-Henda Williams. That has been my time. Thank you all so much. Thank you.